Thank you, Libby. I think I was always just a mayor in waiting. Maybe it's more of what it was. Appreciate your leadership for this effort, and thank you all. I know I'm sorry, I talk real fast. I apologize in advance. Everything has been said, not everyone has said it, but it was very important to be here to simply deliver the message to our governor and to Senators Umberg and Eggman. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you a million times. Thank you for what you have done to our colleagues in the legislature. Lives will be saved because Care Court is going to be law here very, very shortly. I stand here as the mayor of the second largest city in California and a resident of the county of San Diego that is now standing in alignment with the state of California to say that we will no longer turn a blind eye to the suffering of our most vulnerable on the streets of California. Rather than turning the blind eye, we instead will engage, we will lean in, and we will guarantee services to these folks that so desperately need them. When I stood here with Governor Newsom, Mayor Schaaf, and others here at this very spot back in March to announce Care Court, I said at that time that California's behavioral health system was broken. It's a fractured system where way too many people fall through the cracks and where no one seems to be accountable for anything. Where the best access for health care, mental health care, is through an ambulance or through a police car, and that our jails are our largest mental health services providers. This is unacceptable. However, today, together, we are taking a big step to changing that status quo that so many Californians are frustrated by. So much of this debate, as you've heard from others, has been about whether or not Care Court strikes the right balance between protecting civil liberties and providing access to mental health services. The reason I push so hard for Care Court is because there is no issue that I hear about more as mayor than the tragedy that is being experienced by a small but highly visible cohort of people suffering with the crisis of mental health and substance abuse and no way to break out of that cycle. I mean, think about that. No other issue I hear about more than this one. Potholes, traffic, climate change, gun violence. There's a large list of issues. We're still dealing with the pandemic, everybody. This is what people are prioritizing. And it's remarkable that we went this long without any kind of progress. But it took remarkable leadership to get it done, and that's what we have with our governor and with Senator Eggman and Senator Umberg. I tell you that I hear stories again and again. Mayor Locke Dawson talked about her experience. I have my own family experience when it comes to this. I have an aunt who lives with schizophrenia. Without the intervention of her family, she would undeniably be on the streets. But not everyone is as blessed as her status. And what do we do for those folks? Well, until now, we simply say, good luck to you. And as Brian was saying, look past him as we walk by. That is unacceptable. We are.
Like everyone else, I want to thank the governor for his leadership, his team. His team has been fantastic. And I think the team that has been comprised of local leaders, that's who this problem affects. And we don't like to talk about people as a problem, but it's a problem that we have created by our own policies. We have reached a crisis where it is not working anymore. Our LPS system is broken. We still need to fix that, and we need to do a lot more to make that happen. But at the same time, while we can't fix it all at once, but what is created with Care Court is a new on-ramp on. It's not between being in the hospital or being conserved or being on the streets, and it's not fully voluntary. It is voluntary, but it brings people in. And it also holds accountable the systems that are in place to help. Often these are the most difficult people to treat, and so they're at the back of the line. What this does is move them to the front of the line, where it forces our systems to be able to deal with them on the front end and not leave them on the streets, not through any fault of their own. Like we've heard, thousands and thousands of calls are going out to our first responders who are doing everything they can, to the social workers who are trying to provide the service, to the hospitals who are being overwhelmed. All of that needs to shift, and we are doing that by a massive influx of money. We also need to make that very clear. We also acknowledge the crisis we have of the lack of mental health workers, and there are programs that we're also for that. Over $12 billion that's gone down for housing that will now be propped up. But this is another path to be able to deal with those most vulnerable that are out there on the streets every day and who have families. I also have personal family stories, like we all do, of my aunt who suffered in Alameda County, in and around. My cousins finding her time and time again until finally she was found But at that time, she had been raped, gang raped, and ended up dying of HIV/AIDS sometime later. Those are the tragedies that we all would say all the time. Cousin, she's not free to make these choices. It's in her head. It's not her making these choices. So that's what this does. It brings families, it brings responders, all together to be able to be a support for that person who is the most difficult to serve, but it is our responsibility to be able to do it. So I am very excited to be able to be a part of this. Again, our work is not done. We still need to implement. Much more needs to happen. But I think we have kind of broken the paradigm of just trying to fix the same broken system by creating a whole new way of being able to deal with this, where we all have to come together. We all have to be accountable to make sure that every Californian is served, and any of us who are parents can look at our kids when they say, Mom, why can't we do better? And say, we can, honey, and we are. Right now in California, we are going to start doing better. And it's my honor to be able to be a part of this, and I want to bring.
Thank you very much. And I would say that even if I didn't have 7 bills sitting on your desk right now. I would say that. Now, by the way, I do, but I would say that in any event. And also, a special thank you to my partner, Senator Eggman. Stories that we've heard, the stories we've experienced, have been motivational for us. We each have our own lived experience, and I see family members here. I see has helped us structure the bill, helped us to make sure that the principles, we've changed it a bit, but the principles of accountability, the principles of behavior, they remain intact and in the forefront. We appreciate your lived experience of, for example, waking up at 4 in the morning and driving around looking for your loved one, not knowing where that person's going to be, just because there's nothing else you feel like you can do. That phone call that comes at 3 in the morning, you go, wow, thank God he's in jail. Thank God he's in jail, because I know he'll be safe for some period of time. You know, my own lived experience is that it's been 16 years since we stopped looking for our relative, because this has come too late. But it is in his honor and recognition, and just as a personal note, the world comes full cycle. 16 years ago, he left us. But yesterday I had a grandson, and he bears the name of that uncle. So we know that this doesn't go away, and we thank you for your passion and your dedication to take your pain and make it such that others don't experience the same kinds of challenges, same kinds of pain that you experience. So I don't sure, but he's shaking his head here. Harold Turner of NAMI. Thank you to all. Thank you, Susan.
I'm really happy that this day has finally come. You know, in my experience, in my own lived experience with my family, it's tough. You know, it's tough to witness your loved ones deteriorate before your eyes. Sit in some state of arrested development and not really going anywhere. You know, it's heartbreaking for the families. So as I've listened to the speakers this morning, the words that jump out at me are accountability. And accountability is so important. You know, we had to make some sacrifices as a family in order to help my loved one. But we had to advocate. We had to bang on doors. We had to knock down doors. My loved one spent time in just about every clinic, hospital, jail you can think of in Los Angeles County. And it didn't seem that there was anything we could do to help her, you know. But fortunately, the whole family got on board with what we needed to do as a family to reach out to her. She ended up in the criminal justice system. You know, she was unable to get the help she needed outside of that, and minimally so inside of that. And a lot of that had to do with accountability. I think, you know, we have to provide the appropriate services for people at the point where they are in their lives. You know, my daughter spent 10 years. If I had care court 10 years ago, would have saved me 10 years. You know, but that wasn't the case. You know, so I had to do a lot of advocating. Some of you or someone in your departments probably have spoken to me at some point, because I've done a lot of door banging. I don't give up easily. So, you know, so I've been there. My daughter actually ended up in the state hospital system, taxpayers of about $200,000 a year. You know, I spoke to her this morning as I left. She's going to work. She's paying taxes. She has a job, you know, and she don't understand all these deductions on her check yet. She's sure that that's not right, but anyway, I couldn't disagree more. But it's so important that we tap into one of the greatest sources of support the individuals have, and those are families. It's one of the most dedicated workforces you could have. They don't get days off. You know, they don't take time off. They're there every day, all night, good or bad. And that's a tremendous resource. You know, and our job as family members and what we work on is just to convince our loved ones that everything you ever dreamed is still available to you. But it starts with managing this illness. If you can do that, all of your dreams are there, waiting for you, you know, to be realized. And that's a tough sale sometimes, but we keep telling them that. We keep looking for, pointing to examples of that so they can get on board with that message. You know, I think that's our job. And again, you know, we have a lot of resources in this great state we have, but what we were missing for so long is a vision. You know, and our governor has provided that vision for us, you know, that leadership that we need, you know, to ensure that we give our loved ones the best possible chance at living the best life they can possibly live. And we shouldn't settle for anything short of that. You know, by that I mean, you know, all of our families collectively. You know, that includes, you know, the families that are affected by not just mental illness, but that deadly companion, substance abuse, you know, which needs to be addressed. You find they run in pairs. We need to realize that and stop making distinctions between those things. So with that, I just want to go on. It's my pleasure and my honor to introduce the embodiment of that vision I just talked about, our governor, Governor Gavin Newsom.
Thanks, Harold. Thank you, everybody. Well, I don't have much of a case. Speakers made the case more eloquently and personally than I possibly could. I'm here just to express gratitude, express appreciation for not only all those that spoke, but many of the folks that quite literally are sitting and standing behind them that made today possible. We started this journey. I leaned over to Mayor Gloria. I said, was it really it was just March. Not of last year, not of prior year. It was just a matter of months ago that we stood right here and we laid out a vision, a marker, and a dream, and here we are, and we've made it a reality. That is rare in politics, particularly on issues as vexing and challenging as this issue. But when you consider the force of will behind this effort, it's not surprising. And I think that was highlighted by a number of speakers, Mayor Schaaf making the self-evident point, this is California's original sin. I mean, this is the manifestation, isn't it, of our failure. And I say original because it's not novel, it's not new. In many ways, we can mark the moments, not just 1967, but in the 40s and 50s, the stacking of reforms, some well-intended, some little less so. Not one policy, but a series of decisions and policies, so many of them being advanced disproportionately here in the state of California, highlighted, punctuated by some of the most well-known political brands in our history, Governor Ronald Reagan, but also through efforts that were advanced at the national level. The Supreme Court, 1975, the O'Connor versus Donaldson decision, which said you can't incarcerate people against their will for one reason. That's issues related to their mental and brain health. Civil liberties push, more of a conservative backlash, block grants. We can talk about SROs and red line, all of these things stacking together. And here we are. It took us decades and decades to get here. It took us 5 months to change the paradigm, and now it's going to take us a year after I have the privilege to sign the actual bill. I'd have waited. This is not one of those fake bills. It will take us now a year to begin the process of implementation. We have 7 counties that are committing themselves to the first phase. Every county in the state of California will be responsible for implementing this program. We will start with 7 counties. We will start with counties large and small. Tuolumne County, Orange County. We have Riverside. That's joined us. Glenn County, San Francisco, San Diego, and Stanislaus. All 7 committing to an implementation phase within the next calendar year. The first phase will be supported by startup grants of some $63 million. The courts will receive a component of that. The pilot counties will receive the first tranche of dollars, all supported by unprecedented support for housing, as Senator Eggman said, support across the spectrum for services through our $14.7 billion homeless proposal and package, $11.6 billion of community behavioral health resources, record amount of money. And yes, I heard you loudly and clearly on workforce, $1.4 billion of new money for workforce development to train the social workers, the counselors, and the staff. This is unprecedented support that we are committing to over the next few years to make this program work. We say this all the time, program passing is not necessarily problem solving. And that's why it was also not lost on me what the speakers also reinforced. Now the hard work, the implementation, the application of this ideal. And that hard work is realized at the local level. State vision, national vision, it's realized at the local level. And that's why I'm so honored to have so many local leaders, not least of which your mayor, Sam Liccardo, who's been on board not only with this, he was there well before this saying we need with urgency to do something more. You all need to do better. We can't do this alone, and he's right. All the county supervisors that have had our back, overwhelmingly so, CSAC that had our back in this process, the League of Cities, the big 13 mayors in particular, led by Todd and led by Libby, that have done a remarkable job. Of course, Mayor Liccardo was the leader of that organization when we initiated this process. All of them responsible for us getting here. Brian Rice, you know, who rushed into my office, said, we're on board. I didn't even have to ask him. He said, and he started expressing his own experiences out there in the streets and sidewalks, talking about, you know, there's no compassion in stepping over people in the streets and sidewalks, feel powerless. I just came in, I didn't have a chance to hear his comments. I imagine they went along those lines. The sense of being powerless, not to be able to do it. See the same person over and 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 over again. And he can't do anything about it. And so we're changing that paradigm. This is a new paradigm, which is a new approach. We're not reforming anything. In fact, therein has been the struggle. We've been so consumed to reform laws in the late 50s, 57, Short-Doyle Act, 67, LPS, that we were butting our heads against each other, not just against the wall. Everybody pointing fingers and everybody saying that goes too far, doesn't go far enough. We played in the margins. Laura's Law helped 218 people. State of 40 million people helped 218 people last year. You know, come on. So we took a different approach. It was the old approach. I said it at the time when we were standing here, sort of flipped around, and I said, if you don't like the answer, ask a better question. If you don't like the answer, ask a better question. So we started asking ourselves different questions. And that's where Kim, and thank you, Senator Umberg, for recognizing Kim. Thank you for recognizing Dr. Galley, who came here with his vision in the first interview we had. It was not to be the COVID czar, the Fauci of California. It was to get this thing done in absentia. No one more responsible for us getting here today than he. Jessica, I love that you pointed out Jessica, Senator. I'll point out Jason Elliott as well. A remarkable commitment, not passing interest of our team that put their passion to action. And we rolled up our sleeves together. At first, there was tremendous headwind. And there was every reason to think this wouldn't get done, or in some ways worse, it would get watered down to irrelevancy. And we would have a false promise that we were promoting. Neither happened. And you know why? Harold, it was folks like you. It was the personal stories. You know, it's one thing to receive an opposition letter from, you know, 4-letter groups that have been out there for 30, 40 years, understandably holding hands, talking about the way the world should be and the way maybe it once was, though I'm not sure. And it's another to say, well, that's wonderful, but what about my damn daughter? What are you going to do for her? Because this isn't working. And that changed the paradigm. All of a sudden, those folks that came in hot to our office said, well, I'm not sure I can join you and be on board. All of a sudden, they came back, said, can I put my name on that? Because they realized the stakes. Continue to do what you've done, you'll get what you got. And look what we've got. It's unacceptable. So we have the power to turn this around, just as your daughter had the power to turn her life around. Everybody has the capacity to flow with the forces of life. Everybody has the capacity to be fully expressive in their life. This problem is solvable. We know that. We don't have to fall prey to the cynicism and all the negativity that's just too big, it's too hard. It's hard, it's big, but we can meet this moment, and we can create many, many moments in the future to do justice to those that need us and are suffering and struggling. So, look, forgive me for extending my comments, because I'm going to ask everybody to come up here as I sign this in a moment. but full circle again. Senator Cortese, thank you as well. You were here when we launched this, and you're here again. You were steadfast throughout. But to Eggman and Umberg, you guys, I mean, we drafted behind your backs and your passion. You worked it. You made this happen. I have only 6 more bills, Senator, to sign of yours, not 7 in a moment. And I'm just proud of you because this is one of the things I think that we'll look back on with tremendous pride when we're done. You know, we get a moment in time, but this might live on if we make it real. And that's the hard work of the next year, hard work over the next 2 years to get all 58 counties on board, and then get out there and start turning things around. With that, let's get on up here and sign this legislation and celebrate everybody's hard work and success. We'll all gather around. Anybody's welcome to join us.
Oh my gosh, anything in the shade.
Yeah, I know. Everyone's like, get me in the shade. Well, let's make sure we. Who's missing? Yeah, we can. Yeah, get in here. You guys, authors, get in close. Yeah, get in here.
First, we got a Mike Pence thing going on.
Oh, is that right? Oh, is that the? Can we all? Is it possible to see everybody? I mean, we can. It is a good-looking group. All right. Is this we going to do this? Oh, it's a blue though. It's a blue.
We can't sign it.
All right. All right. Well, let's do the smile first. There's a lot to be thankful for and a lot to smile about today. And then let's sign this. All right. Congratulations, everybody. Thank you all. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Harold. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Kim. Thank you, guys. Thanks so much. Just mentioned a question you may ask that I literally know nothing about, so I can claim with absolute clarity I know nothing about it.
Governor, this is a big sum of money. What does the accountability piece look like?
It's accountability. It's two-way accountability. Accountability for the individual, accountability for the city and the county. Got to deliver. If you don't deliver, there's consequences. We're not going to fund failure. Cities and counties are not going to get the money unless we see results. These care plans have to be made real, and the clients have responsibility, and that's the paradigm shift. Before we just threw out money, no accountability, money in many different directions, no prioritization, no real focus, and you see that manifested on the streets and sidewalks. So this has been architected completely differently than anything you've seen in the state of California, arguably in the last century in terms of this approach. I'm not going to overpromise, but I'm not going to underpromise the significance of this moment as we begin the process to implement in a year. So level set. This doesn't go in effect today. We're setting up a brand new system with unprecedented supports, and 7 counties will initiate October 1st of next year.
You touched on it a bit, but the civil rights groups have threatened to sue. Some of them say this will stop the most in need from going to help because they don't want to go to court.
Well, it's exhausting. I just am exhausted. I think their point of view has been well advanced for a half century in the state of California. Their point of view is expressed by what you see on the streets and sidewalks all throughout this state. Their point of view was expressed in the halls of the legislature, and they were overwhelmingly rejected because in a progressive legislature, they said, enough. We're going to move in a different direction. We could do more. We can do better. We're not here to listen to the same excuses of why we can't do something. We're going to give this an opportunity.
Governor, one off topic. We are 2 months from the November election. Your opponent has asked to debate you.
Yep.
Your response to him?
Yeah, happy to do it. And we'll do it just as we did the last time I ran for office. So look forward to it. Anybody?
Governor, you
Yep.
mentioned that it's taken decades to get here in Michigan, Ronald Reagan and everything like that. Why did it take so long to get this done?
Because we were forced into a stale debate, old binaries, around reforming a law that was conceived in 1967 in a world that no longer exists. It's radically changed. And everyone was so consumed, I'll be honest with you, about preserving and protecting their trophy on the wall, their pride, their ideology, wherever it may have fallen on the spectrum. And people are more interested in talking about the problem and assigning blame than doing something about the problem. And I'll be honest with you. I mean, I've only been in office a little over 3.5 years. But even I got thrust into, all right, let's reform that old paradigm, when I realized we're just playing in the margins. And we've made modest reforms. We did that with Laura's Law 2 years ago. It's had no real measurable results. And so we were forced to deal with the consequences of that, and we changed the paradigm by creating a brand new paradigm, a brand new approach, not reforming the old system, designing a new system. What would you do if you knew you could not fail? If you had the beginner's mind, if you're going to rebuild a system, how would you approach it? That's the approach we've taken with this.
Governor, what are the early signs of success that you're going to be looking for?
I mean, lives that are changed, people that are saved.
What does that look like? What should people expect?
As someone that's out on the streets and sidewalks, that's, struggling, self-medicating with drug or alcohol addiction, with bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, paranoia, someone who's out there in and out of the criminal justice system, in and out of the emergency room, in and out of ambulances for years and years and years. You drive by every single day. They're not off the streets because they died. They're off the streets because they were saved. That's what it looks like. Someone whose life was turned around, not someone whose life was disposed of and became a statistic in the name of compassion, in the name of the status quo. I'm not interested in the status quo. I'm not interested in the compassionlessness of the approach we have today of people moralizing and somehow suggesting and normalizing that's suffering on the streets and sidewalks. And that's very intense about this. I have fatigue with some folks that just want to, bury their head in the sand about what's going on with folks that are struggling with schizophrenia spectrum, with psychosis disorders. They need help, they need intervention. And sometimes that's tough. And this is I think, balanced approach to refer, to evaluate, to create a care plan, to have due process, to ultimately enjoy success.
As we look to the
Absolutely. It's all about iteration, bottom up, not top down. It's not command and control. It's addressing the issues at the local level. And it's around resourcing with flexibility. Some have more robust resources, some have less. You'll see in the 7 pilot counties, we have Glenn, not just orange counties, small counties, rural counties, not just big, large urban counties. So we'll play in terms of that frame, again, locally, addressing the needs and flexibilities at the local level with unprecedented support. And by the way, unprecedented support. Money is spent in this system universally. You heard what Harold said. You're spending $200,000 a year, we're and his daughter, every year. The money's there. We're just dumb as we want to be that we're spending it on the back end and not investing on the front end. And so this is one of many reforms that we've advanced this year. You may have seen me up in Fresno weeks ago putting out $4.7 billion of new money for 0 to 26 full referral, screening, and investment on comprehensive, universal behavioral health for our children, 0 to 26 in the state. Completely reimagining the system in the state of California. That's to treat brain health early before we punish it later. In between is this approach of care court, going upstream, not waiting for folks to end up downstream in jail, in the criminal justice system, to actually address their needs before that trigger of failure goes into effect and we end up spending exponentially more money on the back end. So I'm really proud of this, but remember, it's done not in isolation. It's done stacking these other reforms that we've built around it.
How confident are you that we'll be able to retain and continue to get the mental health workers needed for this program and the rest of the programs?
I think that's the biggest question, most challenging. It's not just the biggest question, it's the biggest challenge and the biggest issue that we face, which is across the spectrum. One of the great challenges we face as society is where's the workers, where's the workforce? And that's why we put $1.4 billion, again, new money, separate and above all the other supports for just that issue, to address it, to provide support for retraining, to provide support in terms of getting that pool of talent and getting that throughput of that talent educated and making sure they're compensated appropriately. That's why I was proud to be with SEIU 5 to 1 that has made this a career, not just an hourly wage. And that attracts more quality workers and provides better quality outcomes at facilities like this.
Governor, and what happened to the struggling people who are right now still waiting for housing, but they cannot get it?
Well, we put $14.7 billion up in the budget for that. And 3.5 years ago, there was $500 million for the entire state. No plan, no strategy, $500 million. We have a plan, strategy, and $14.7 billion. Unprecedented supports. Project Homekey alone has provided thousands, over 10,000 units of brand new housing for the state just in the last 24 months that didn't exist 24 months ago. So it's that and. It's this and. It's all those things and what we're doing on the most vexing issue, which is what do we do about someone who's talking themselves, that's out there in the streets and sidewalks and self-medicating that we see every single day, and everybody has their hands in the air, said, I can't do anything about it, and the mayor say, I can't do anything about it. And they say we have something called conservatorship, but it's almost impossible to get a placement, everybody's upset, it's a locked facility, it seems too draconian. Is there an interim step? Yes, there is now as we implement Care Court.
There's time for about 2 more.
While we have you here, I would like to ask, there's a launch today in Oakland on Prop 30, a campaign launch. A lot of your political allies are part of that, you are not.
Yeah, no. It's a big tax increase that disproportionately benefits a few large corporations. There was one large corporation, a wonderful company, that's going to be one of the lion's share beneficiaries of raising everybody else's taxes to direct money in an area where we just passed the largest appropriation and the largest budget in U.S. history, $53.9 billion for our transition to electric vehicles and climate change. And so in many ways, they're solution A, in search of a problem. B, they're going to create more tax pressures in this state as the economy begins to decline. And they are the beneficiary of a lot of those directed dollars. I just cannot in good conscience support that. And I hope people take a good look at that, where this came from, where the money is behind it. And I just don't think at this moment, with the economy teetering and with a $101.4 billion record surplus, that we should be raising taxes and sending those money to corporations to do something that the state is already doing at scale.
Last question, any other? All right, thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, guys.
Mayor, we'll go right